only way we're going to get that infrastructure is by essentially our mandate. We have to demand it. And I think that Congress is sympathetic to this idea. The FCC is promoting it with a broadband plan. It doesn't need that actually much money. In other words, it's not like building a new airport. It's not that expensive, but what it does need is so much more capacity than it now has. We suffer from it, and unless we have broadband everywhere, as the world moves more and more towards an information society, we will not be competitive. And that is tragic, because we've got this miracle, the miracle of the internet, where you can publish to everybody without any interference, and we don't have the pipes necessary to carry it.
I have one question, and we'll open up for anybody else who has questions. It's a hard question to answer, but I think it's so important. And that's, you somewhat answered it already. How do you create the conditions for creativity? I mean, you mentioned that spark. That teacher gave you a little flicker. And I think you're right, that once that spark ignites, that things start to happen. But yes. Any thoughts about that, in talking about creativity that's in those sparks?
Well, you have to, look, most people, I think, actually, you hear the word creative, and most people shy. They think they're not creative. I didn't think I was creative until way late, in my 20s. I always thought I would kind of be a good clerk. And for me, I got very lucky because I was dropped into the deep end of something I didn't understand, and I either had to swim or sink. And it was a creative thing that I was dropped into, and so I kind of did sink, but I burbled back up to the top after a while. What I would say is this. The only thing you can do, now of course, and I don't think, look, education is terribly important. Certainly you have to be in the worlds that I work in, the tech worlds that I work in. You have to have proficiency. But the truth is anybody who's growing up today has, fluency in the internet to their fingertips. But you don't need really more than that. Yes, it's great to have. Stanford, by the way, was not created. The tech of Silicon Valley was not created by Stanford. It was really created by two men, Hewlett and Packard, and in a garage, they started Hewlett Packard by making little tubes or whatever they were making in 1940-something or 40-something, I think, when they started. The way really to do it that I think that's practical or that you could do something with, again, is, aside from education, is having a place, and I do think it's geographic. I mean, I think the spark starts when you start to populate a place with a few people who are similarly crazy, internet crazy, similarly wanting to rub the stone. And then what you do is promote the hell out of it. The reason I think that a lot of these places grew so quickly to be magnets for people that then would have this, would then be capable of sparkdom, that something would happen, is because once they had these little enclaves that are not hard to start, they don't take much capital, we'll help you start some of them.
Good.
And once, that was quick, once you get that going, then the rest really just happens. So that's kind of the practical thing I would do. And then when you promote it, we have internet fairs. In New York, in order to get it started in New York, we had internet fairs. We had people come in. We were just in the endless promotion business until the natural properties started to cook.
Great. Questions? Who has questions from the audience?
Good morning, Barry. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
That's good. I was kind of smiling earlier when I heard you talk about Michael Eisner. I know I've written a couple papers on that. But
Could you give your name, please?
yeah, my name's Tyler Cottrell. I'm with Montana State University, Bozeman. And I know a few of my fellow business students had a question, and that was, if you were to give us one piece of advice, being young college kids, looking for that entrepreneurial spark, how should we go about doing that?
It's going to relate, first of all, to what you're interested in. You can't do anything because somebody else did it before you or because somebody told you it was a hot idea. I mean, going back to the movie The Graduate, when said, what are you going to do? Plastics. I mean, it is not from yesterday. The only thing you can do is to grind in yourself. What is it that interests you? Now, if you don't have any interests, I would say game over. But, I'm going to believe that just like as I was looking at that school and those 30, 40 kids, I thought, there's a chance one of you is going to have an area of interest that they're going to start to develop. So grind down on your own interests. What interests you? What is it that sparks you? If you can't get sparked, nothing's going to happen. It doesn't matter whether anyone else in the world believes in that idea. It couldn't matter less. It also couldn't matter less what the conditions are, meaning whether it's a good time or a bad time. But whatever the idea is, if you just work that idea, then something is going to happen. It may be that the first tries will fail, but who cares? Particularly, if you're young. That's where kind of learning comes. So no rules, no anything. Just dive down in what intrigues you, what's in the air, and grab it.
Great advice. Next question.
Hi, Mr. Diller. Thank you for coming to Montana. My name is Lance Trevish. I'm a co-owner and CEO of two internet businesses, Ticket River and TicketPrinting.com. I have a more tactical question.
So you're a competitor of ours?
No. Potential.
We have Ticketmaster, but that may be a little bit more developed.
We focus on small events. In any case, the question I have is more tactical.
Sorry.
How does IAC work both with Google and also in terms of forging your own destiny?
Well, it's a great question because one is entwined in the other. Google has such influence in the sense that it has, really I'd say about a real 70% of the search market. And if you have internet services, a lot of our services, you type in Match.com and you go directly there. But a lot of people also, 60% in Match.com's case. But lots of things you find through search. So we're all getting to be serfs in the empire of Google. And so working with them is a bit like you would work with Komodo dragons. Which means very carefully but energetically, because they run very fast. And we're in the advertising business. Look, we're probably Google's biggest outside partner in terms of advertising revenue with our Ask.com and some of our other MindSpark and other services. With anyone who has that kind of market influence and who has to grow, they're going to infringe on businesses that before were other people's businesses. That is the nature of things. And they are doing so. Our Expedia is actually, we are, in addition to advertising revenues we receive, we are the biggest advertiser on Google with Expedia and Hotels.com and all of our travel services. And yet, Google has decided to go into the travel service business in their defined way, saying they're not going to infringe upon it. So it's very difficult. I think eventually, if Google continues to have this kind of market influence, and Microsoft, the only real other big competitor in search, does not make its way to create at least two competitors, then eventually they're going to have to be regulated. But for right now, it's doable, but tough.
Next question.
Yes, Box, I want to thank you for this conference. My name's Toby McAdam. I have a company called Rising Sun Health and the Center for Complementary Health. I do my business on the internet, and we pull in probably about 500,000 visitors a month. However, we've got to cut back because we deal with government regulations and the FDA. How would you recommend dealing with agencies like that?
Could you give us, what
they do is,
I'm not your
when,
best
when
customer.
when you're dealing with supplements or certain things with health, you can't use certain words which make medical claims. And how would you deal with an agency like that? For your recommendations?
Well,
Because I know the FCC is another one.
yes, well, the FCC, but the FCC is a very light touch in terms of regulation. I really can't answer it. I mean, look, I think if you've got something that you're doing and there are regulations, you have to figure out a way to get around them.
Toby, give us a call. We'll see if we can help you out.
And that's a very good way.
Okay. This is really interesting. So I see a stop sign up here. We're going to disregard it briefly. Other questions? Anybody have thoughts? One more question. Okay, yes. Yeah, it's there.
Test. Mr. Diller, Mike Spar, CEO of a mobile startup in Missoula called Goomsy. One of the challenges that I've faced over the past few years is identifying sources for funding to take the Spark and take it to the next level. And it's a challenge I think most businesses face in Montana. And thankfully, I had network outside the state to pull money in from elsewhere. But you mentioned the Boulder, Colorado Spark that you guys planted. One of the things I think legislators, maybe Max might need to hear, is how much capital did it take to truly make that opportunity happen for Service Magic?
Actually, it took extremely little. This is not building a plant. These are not capital intensive by nature. These are people intensive. And since the early days, people will work for the potential. It's not exactly like these are people who will work 24 hours a day to achieve a dream, to make an idea a reality. But you do need some funding. And it shouldn't honestly be hard to organize. There's so much money coursing around, and it's not just in big corporations or banks or whatever. In the VC area, venture capital, which is what finances all the areas that I'm talking about, there is a ton of money. And they're reviewing ideas all the time. As I say, what you have all got to do, and you could lead this, other people can lead this, we'll participate in it, is to get a group of venture capitalists who will come, spend a couple of days, have an internet fair, have people come with their best ideas, and some, for sure some, one, is going to get funded.